Section 7.2 RA-3. The mean incubation time of fertilized eggs is 24 days. Suppose the incubation times are approximately normally distributed with a standard deviation of 1 day. Determine the incubation times that make up the middle 95%. So what we want to do is we're going to determine the incubation times that make up the middle 95%. So we need to start by drawing a normal curve and shading the desired region. So let's go ahead and draw our normal curve. So here is our normal curve. Okay, we know that our mean is 24. And so what we're looking for is the middle 95%. So the middle represents 95%. So if this represents 95%, then that's equal to 0.95. Okay? So the other thing that we need to determine, okay, is what area does these two here represent? So we can figure that out by using the given information. Okay, we know that the entire area of the bell curve is 1. So if we take 1 and then we subtract that 0.95%, excuse me, we'll just put 0.95 there. Okay, what that equals is 0.5 or 0.05. So that means that you have two areas that when you add them together, it's going to give you 0.05. Now, if we divide that by 2, since there are two, one on the left and one on the right, well, that's going to give us the area of 0.025. So that means that this area represents 0.025, and we know that this area is 0.025. Okay? So what we want to do now is we want to be able to find the value of x here and what the value of x2 is there. So we're going to call that x1 and then x2. Okay? So what we can do is we want to figure out, okay, what is the area what is the area to the left of x1? Well, we know that that area is 0.025. And we're going to call that 0 at the very end of it. So we want to figure out what is that z-score that is associated with the area to the left of x1. So we want to find out what is z1, meaning we want to find out what is z1. So we're going to go down here and we're going to look for the area of 0.0250. So let's see here, 0.0250, 0.0250. See here, right there. So let's take a look at that. We have 0.0250. Oops. Let's see here. So we can see that there is 0.0250, and that gives us the z-score of negative 1.96. So the z-score for that is negative 1.96. And so then we're going to find, okay, what is the area to the left of x2? Well, if we look at the area of x2, the middle is 0.95, and then we have to add the 0.025 over here. So that means we need to take 0.95 and then add 0.025, which ends up giving us 0.975. So that's going to give us the z-score 2. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and find that here. So we're looking for 0.975. So there is 0.975. So we're looking at 0.975. So we have 1.9 and then 6. So therefore, we can see that gives us that area, which is 1.96. So therefore, this gives us positive 1.96. So what does that mean? Well, let's just take a look at what that graph would look like. So we would have the bell curve. Okay, since this is the normal distribution, that means we would have 0 here. And we know that this z-score would be negative 1.96. And we know that this is positive 1.96 with the area that's in between. Okay? But what we want to do is we want to be able to find what are the x values. So we need to find x1. Well, x1 is going to equal the following formula. It's going to equal the mean plus the value of the z-score of 1 times the standard deviation. So we know that the mean is 24. We're going to add negative 1.96, and then we're going to multiply that by 1. So therefore, x1 is going to equal 22. Okay, and then we want to find x2. x2 is going to equal the mean plus the second z-score times the standard deviation. So that's going to equal 24 plus positive 1.96 times 1. And so therefore, x2 is going to give us 26. So therefore, we can say that the incubation time that make up the middle 95% are 22 to 26 days. So, therefore, that's how we go about that part. Okay, now let's go ahead and use technology. So if we wanted to use the TI-84, then we're going to use INV norm with the area, mu, and then a standard deviation. Okay, so when we get to this part, we need to look at this graph. And so this is where we need to find the areas. So we need to find the area. So that means that if we know that the area, again, is the middle 95%. So if we know the area is equal to 95%, which is equal to 0.95. Okay, and then again, we know that our drawing represents the following. So we know that this is 24, We know that this is x1, and then we know that this is x2, and then we're looking for the middle percent, right? So the middle percent is 0.95. So we would do like we did in step 2. We're going to take 1 and subtract 0.95 to get 0.05. We're going to divide it by 2 to get 0.025. So we know this area represents 0.025. So that means to find x1, that's going to equal INV norm with the area of 0.025 with the mean of 24 and a standard deviation of 1. So let's go ahead and put that in our calculator. So second distribution, scroll down to INV norm. We're going to put in 0.025, comma the mean, which is 24, comma standard deviation, and we get 22. So if you round that to 22, we get x1 is equal to 22, which verifies what we got in step number 6. Okay, step number 6, we want to find x2. Okay, so in order to do that, remember that we need to find, okay, the fact that we got to get this 0.95 and then we got to add the 0.025. So remember that 0.95 plus 0.025 gives us an area of 0.975. So we want to find INV norm of 0.975, 24, and then 1. So let's go ahead and do that. So we got second distribution, scroll down to INV norm. We're going to put 0.975 for our area. We know the mean is 24, standard deviation is 1, and then we get 25.9. We can round that to 26, which verifies our answers from the first part. Okay, so now let's use StatCrunch. Okay, so if we're using StatCrunch, then again we want to find scores corresponding to an area. We're going to select Stat, highlight Calculators, and then select Normal. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up StatCrunch. Okay, we're going to go to Stat, select Calculators, and then go to Normal. Okay, so we know that the mean is 24. We know the standard deviation is 1. Okay, and it says between. Okay, so we know that it's going to be in between what values? Well, we know that we have an area of 0.95, and now we're going to select compute. And so therefore, that gives us our answers pretty quickly. So we can see that from this graph that x1 is equal to 22 and x2 is equal to 26. But again, like I said, we want to make sure that we know how to solve the first part to understand how to use technology.